Hello, SPED 420. This is your instructor, Elia Mahoney, and today we are actually going to go over section 11 or class 11 of our SPED 420 course. And for this class today, we're actually going to focus on a couple of different areas. As you will see in our agenda, we are going to look at lesson demands and student profiles. Then we are going to go over a graphic organizer that kind of neatly lays out all of the concepts that we've covered in class so far, and it will help you to make sense of where everything goes and kind of the purpose that they serve. Then we're going to go over the umbrella of adaptations. We are going to cover extensions for students who are gifted and or high achieving a little bit, but I have a separate video linked into our Canvas, and I'll show you where it is. So you can go ahead and watch it if you're interested in finding more information for supporting that student population. And then we will end today with assistive technology. So we didn't have enough time to go over the analysis of lesson demands last week, so this is where we are going to kind of pick up from. So when we're looking at kind of breaking down and analyzing a lesson and the demands that it's placing on students, what we're really looking at is what are some possible barriers that students may face given the challenges and how they're manifested in the classroom. So we're really looking to identify students who may struggle. Again, we're trying to be as prepared as possible, and then kind of just again break down and describe what are the potential challenges that they may be facing. So here is an example, and I'm just including 3 steps of a lesson so you can go ahead and see essentially this is what you will be doing in your instructional plan with your group. So if we look here, the first step is listen to teacher review division steps. We have a student that is often off task during teacher instructions. So this right here, again, lesson step, what we are anticipating given our observations and our experience with the student is that they're going to be off task. We then go ahead and proactively anticipate that challenge and put in some supports in place. Secondly, follow review steps for one problem on whiteboard. So this is guided practice for everyone. We know that Chris is going to struggle to follow along during whole group instruction. So what are some changes that we can implement to ensure that he's accessing the curriculum? And then finally, the last step for this example is that they're going to go into a partner activity where they're going to roll the dice and then they're going to solve problems. Well, we know that Chris does not know his multiplication facts and struggles with division. So if this is the lesson step activity, how is he going to do given this mismatch? So here are a couple of ideas. These are some potential changes to the lesson or to support the student so he or she can access the curriculum and be much more successful. So again, remember the first step of the lesson was that listen to teacher review division steps, but we know Chris is going to struggle with that. He's going to be off task, missing instructions. So what we can do, kind of a universal design aspect to implement or embed in this lesson is use choral and physical responses for review. So again, if students have to listen to the teacher review the division steps, we can kind of spice up that activity by making it more interactive and students aren't as passive. The second step of the lesson is follow review steps for one problem on the whiteboard. So that's meant to be guided practice, but we know again that Chris will struggle to follow along during the whole group instruction. So a couple of supports that we can put in place. You know what? We can pairs follow along on the whiteboard and then they switch. One monitors for accuracy, the other one assists as the other one does the problem, or we can give Chris a leadership role in the review process. Again, we're trying to make sure that he's not a passive learner. And then finally, the last part of this example lesson is that they're going to be involved in some sort of partner activity where they will be rolling die and solving, or rolling dice and solving problems. But we also know that Chris struggles with multiplication facts and division. So the way that we can support Chris is to give him assigned sets of cards to review key facts. Again, this is anticipating based on our experiences of the student, based on their learning profile, instead of just teaching straight through and telling Chris, well, too bad that you don't know your multiplication facts, I gotta keep teaching, because more than likely Chris probably isn't the only student that's struggling with multiplication facts. There's probably other students as well in that class, and again, we want to make sure that we are teaching to the edges. Yes, we want to teach to the mythical average student, but at the same time, we don't want to forget about our students who are learners at the edges, learners at the margins. Okay, so this is a great example that you will use throughout your own instructional plans. Okay, so for right now, what we're going to do is we're going to do a virtual activity. Normally we would do this in class, but I went ahead and modified it to be more of an online collaborative group activity. And so for this activity, you will notice each group in our class, I have assigned a different neurodevelopmental construct. Okay, so my first lower elementary K2 group, so that includes Jennifer, Katie, Saida, and Haley. You guys are going to focus on attention. Upper elementary 3 to 5, Eric, Ashley, Amy, and Elena. You guys are going to focus on the memory, neurodevelopmental construct, and so forth. Okay, so let me go ahead and walk you through this activity. So it says here you're going to go to Canvas and you're going to open the Google Doc link. So I'm actually going to exit out from the PowerPoint. I am going to go to week 11. And you will notice two things. Here's the Google Doc, A Passion for Fractions. It's in orange. And right above it is the A Passion for Fractions, the short movie. So you're going to first open the Google Doc, okay? And you will notice that the different neurodevelopmental constructs have been labeled: attention, memory, language, and so forth, okay? So if I were, for example, this lower elementary K-2 group, and I know that I have to focus on attention, as I'm watching the Passion for Fractions movie, I'm solely going to focus on the attention neurodevelopmental construct. Okay, so I'm going to, with my group, collaborate and discuss, well, what are the demands associated to this construct as we are seeing in the movie, So we know that students need to pay attention at the right time and to the right things. We need them to discriminate between important information and things that are not important as they're reading word problems and so forth. And then here, what are the skills needed for the students in the video to be successful? So again, if you are assigned attention, you're only going to fill out this attention section. If you are assigned like high school, 9 through 12, we have one group that has been assigned temporal sequential. You're only responsible, your group is only responsible for filling out the temporal sequential ordering. I think I just see something funky here that I will fix. Actually, let me pause this and let me fix that now. Okay, I went ahead and fixed it really quickly. For some reason, some of the sections were missing, but everything is good now. Okay, so that is A Passion for Fractions. This is where your group will document the information you gathered about your specific neurodevelopmental construct as you're watching the short movie, which is right here. You're going to click on it and it leads you right to the teaching channel. It's this video right here. You're going to click play and it will go ahead and start playing. You're going to go ahead and watch it in its entirety. Okay, so that will be due next class section, which will be November 12th. Okay. And as you are coming into class, let me back up a little bit. Again, as we watch the lesson from the movie, please note the demands related to the construct you were assigned, what skills are needed for students to be successful. Okay, so for November 12th, each group will be expected to share out with the class and just kind of discuss what you saw in the video related to your specific neurodevelopmental construct. Okay. Next, this is the differentiation of instruction graphic organizer, and that can also be located on Canvas under week 11. And if you go to right here, differentiated instruction graphic organizer, okay, you are more than welcome to hopefully either printed it out or I created, you can write into this, but it helps you to kind of figure out where everything fits. So if you could either pause this recording so you can get this graphic organizer out, that'd be great, because we're going to fill it out right now. Okay. So we've covered a lot of different theories in terms of supporting the neurovariability that students possess within our everyday classes. So when we are looking at differentiating instruction, we are looking at a couple of things. First, we're looking at the environment and how the lesson is designed, okay? And the environment and the way that we design our lessons are all based on the type of students that we have in our classrooms, whether they are neurotypical, whether they are students with autism or students who are gifted, students with emotional challenges or students that are deaf. The needs that those students kind of, come along with will definitely impact the way that we're going to address our environment and design our lessons. So we can go ahead and differentiate our environment and our lessons based on representation, engagement, and action and or expression. If you feel like they sound familiar, that is because these are components that make up universal design for learning. So just a little side note, representation is the way that you present information to students and making sure that you are varying the way that you are presenting information to students to ensure that they are able to have aha moments, to increase their comprehension. And you can, when you're first introducing a unit, you can use, movie clips, you can listen to music, you can, anything that's going to really enhance the presentation of material. Engagement is the way that you are going to keep your students motivated and engaged throughout the process. And there's many different tools, but the ones that are commonly used in the classroom would include self-reflection, self-monitoring, and really focusing on process versus product. And then finally, there's that action and expression section of UDL. So action and expression refer to what are some ways that you can vary the way that students can express what they know, that can express how much they have learned. It's not necessarily having to write an essay that can demonstrate what you know. You can employ a multitude of different mediums. Students can make a movie, students can make a poster or a PowerPoint, as long, of course, that they're hitting all of the points on a rubric that you have provided for them. Okay, then we go on to specifically differentiating further, and we can differentiate further via the provision of accommodations, modifications, and extensions. So we are going to definitely go more in depth into accommodations, modifications, and extensions, but just know that these are, again, this is more universal. This top right here, the orange, we're being proactive. However, it doesn't matter sometimes how universally designed your lesson is and how awesome it is. Sometimes you're still going to need to provide accommodations or modifications, but the amount of accommodations and modifications that you will need to provide will definitely lessen if you start with anticipating those needs in mind. Now you provide accommodations, modifications, and extensions based on the students' readiness skills, based on their interest, and based on their learning profile. So remember, all students vary, with their learning profile. And so some may have strengths in reading, but not necessarily strengths in writing, or vice versa. So really, that's kind of what's going to lead how we support them. Okay. And when we're looking at the learning profile of a student, we can use two tools to know their learning profile. One is, you guessed it, the neurodevelopmental framework. So remember those 8 neurodevelopmental frameworks: attention, memory, neuromotor, social, high order cognition. Those can tell us a lot about a student's learning profile. Another tool that we can use to get that information includes using Gardner's Multiple Intelligence Survey. So that one helps us know what students feel are their areas of strength, what they have intelligence in, whether it's, more of that kinesthetic component, music, nature oriented, whatever it may be. But all of that information will help us to, really create wonderful, engaging lessons and activities for our students. Okay, so highly recommend that you just kind of keep this graphic organizer, because again, it really helps to break down everything that we've discussed so far in our class section. Also, this will come in handy when during the final case study that you guys will be working on. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and now move on to our next section. And our next section, we are going to cover adaptations. So adaptations, many of you may hear it from time to time, but it's really an umbrella term. And under adaptations, we have assistive technology, we have accommodations, and modifications, okay, and extensions. Okay, so what is all of this? I'm glad you guys asked. Well, again, adaptations, it's an umbrella term, and all of these things fall under adaptations. If we break it down a little more, there are a couple of different adaptations that we will see in our classroom. This list is included in your class notes. I actually went ahead and added pictures because I just felt like this one was a little dry. It doesn't really help us with getting ideas of what they look like in the classroom. So, kidding. I seem to not have it in here. Okay, let me pull that up and then we'll go ahead and cover it. Hang tight.